Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace vs. Community is B-Class Hatchback Racing, and this is what the game counts as a hatchback. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how the Celica gets away with it, but never mind, don't worry about that. Our first race is at Iberian, and as we come into the first corner, there is a little bit of argy-bargy. There's a couple of incidences. The first corner here is a pretty nasty one, especially if you're further back, it's very hard to see. I don't know how I got away without any sort of contact at all in that first section. As we go three wide up the top of the hill, and I end up off the road a little bit. Yes, there's an innocent leaf in there. Don't worry. Don't question things. It's just something that happens in Forza. Not a normal race. But yeah, when it comes to the first corner, I tend to have my car on the inside, trying to avoid any incidences. As if there's a crash, you know, the cars are going to kind of end up moving towards the outside of the track, and going around the outside of the first corner is terrifying. But somehow I got away with it fairly cleanly. There wasn't too many instances. There always is going to be some form of coming together when you have 16 cars going into that first corner, because that is a really very nasty first corner. Anyway, me and the BTC Civic had actually made up a lot of ground on this first lap. We both started right near the back. And we're making our way through the field as a rabbit falls off the road a little bit. Now, I built my Celica specifically for straight line speed. Admittedly, we are running around some shorter tracks. However, I had designed my car to be one of the fastest in the straight line. At least that's what I was hoping. Reason being, as I've said many times before, that having a fast car in a straight line means that you have a little bit easier time trying to overtake somebody, and it's a lot harder to overtake you. However, you might not actually have the overall lap time. So I was experimenting to see what could happen. And yeah, things were going okay at the start of this race. I was making my way through the field. There was a lot of close racing in this one, and I wasn't really surprised. I was hoping that this would generate some close racing. Also, despite my Celica being kind of designed to be good in a straight line, these damn Civics are so blooming fast. If I'd thought about it, I would have probably banned, I think, the 97 and the 94 Civic are some of the leaderboard cars around some of these tracks. I'm not really sure how it works. I try to keep these things balanced and not allow leaderboard cars, but yeah, I might have forgotten about these ones, so I allowed them to run them anyway. Yeah, the Civics were mighty fast around this track, as we have a Megane is trying to fend off, although they weren't as fast as the RX-7. Yeah, one of the early RX-7s is apparently a hatchback as well, and that was gone, just completely vanished off into the distance. So yeah, it's very hard getting things balanced on here. Even though all the cars are B-Class, they're certainly not all equal. But yeah, the Megane was trying to fend off the Civic as best he could. But yeah, the Civics are very, very fast in a straight line. As we can see here, he's going to have a little look into the first corner. Is he close enough? It's quite enough. There we go. You see, I thought that was going to be too far back, but that Civic has quite a lot of straight line speed. Helps when the Megane runs a little bit wide. As well, you can see me in the background, and another one of the slightly newer Civics had managed to make our way into, I think, 4th and 5th. Yeah, I was kind of looking throughout the field, and these two were pretty much together the entire time. I could swap to their kind of points of view in this replay, and this Seat and Civic were going to be kind of battling out for the entirety of this race. The Leaf was still hanging on, which I was surprised by. I thought that would be long gone. I mean, it's still kind of towards the lower end of the top 10, I think, but they're still not too bad, all things considered, about that horrible car. As we run into the first corner again, this is what I say about straight line speed being very important. The Seat, I think, is probably the quicker of the two. However, he cannot really overtake, especially around this track's really hard to overtake. The first corner is one of the best opportunities you're going to get. Also, Diabolica, the one after the crest that's about to come up now, is another good corner for overtaking. But he's really, they're not particularly like fantastic chances here. There is a braking zone, but it's not particularly big, especially not in these kind of cars that are probably going to be fairly grippy. So yeah, it is hard to overtake around here. As we go around the quadruple apex right-hander. Again, this is another thing showing how hard this track is to overtake. The Clio here just gets a little bit too close. This is another good example, actually, of how you've got to kind of adapt your driving style to the car in front. The Clio just wasn't expecting the Celica here to be braking as early as he did. And if the Clio had anticipated it, if he kind of braked a bit earlier than he would normally, he probably would have passed the Celica at the end of the straight. But because he kind of got things a little bit wrong, there wasn't an incident. But yeah, when it comes to racing kind of closely with people, I've talked about this before, but it is really important to kind of adjust your driving to the car in front. I was under considerable amounts of pressure actually in this race. I love this track. This is probably my favourite track on Forza. It's a tough choice between this and Infineon NASCAR, but yeah, I was coming under increasing pressure from the BTCC, there we go, we'll get it right, Civic. The jump that you saw there, the Civic got very, very sideways, and now try to go around the outside. You're not likely to do that. You're not likely to go around the outside there. That jump there, though, is incredibly scary in these cars. If you land that jump wrong, as you saw by there, it's very easy to have a slide and have a crash. It's a surprisingly tricky, surprisingly nasty corner. We go back to these two now, and they'd been battling the entire race basically. I occasionally would look at the battles. They'd swap places. I don't know how many times they swapped places, but yeah, this was an ongoing battle throughout the entire race. I think this was the biggest the gap had been, or the biggest I'd seen it anyway. And then the Civic gets it a little bit wrong, just runs a tiny bit too wide through there. Very easy to do that. Diabolica is one of the trickiest corners, I reckon, on this track, and as Seat does a very nice overtake sort of around the outside of the first part of the quadruple apex right-hander. Yeah, Diabolica. For those of you who wonder about that name, it was a long, long time ago we did a competition around here, and I couldn't think of a name to call that corner, and somebody suggested it, and I liked it. So yeah, that's why it's called that, and this is a play on words with the Parabolica from wherever, Monza. There we go. Anyway, as far as racing goes, there was battles. This is for 15th place, the Battle of the Broken. There were a few cars damaged. I think a few of them suffered damage in the first corner incident. It's just one of it. It's going to happen, unfortunately, when it comes to this sort of online racing. Also, this track is incredibly short. It is one of the shorter tracks in the game, and that always causes more chaos. Yeah, it's always going to be busy around this track. But yeah, even despite the fact that these cars were broken and suffering varying degrees of damage, as I've said before, never quite sure when you look at the replays quite what's got how much damage. But yeah, even if the cars were broken, they were still sort of fairly evenly. There was still racing going on, should I say, even if the cars were broken. At the front though, and this RX-7 had driven away from the field, stayed out of trouble on the first lap. I'm not sure if he started on pole or he started very near the front. Either way, he'd pretty much driven away from the entire field. Stayed out of trouble, not made any silly mistakes, and yeah, it was a fairly straightforward win. Yeah, that's it. It was probably a fairly boring race as well. I'm not sure quite how it counts, sorry, as a hatchback, that thing, but never mind. The Hill was also to claim its first and only victim on the final lap. The Renault Megane that was in third, I believe, just got a little bit wrong. That's what can happen over the crest of the hill. It's very easy to do that. It's surprisingly easy to do that. I've done it in a V8 supercar, I think, doing that. If you just get it a little bit wrong when you go over the hill, you end up going kind of sideways. When your car's in the air sideways, when it lands, it's not normally happy. And if you're running simulation steering, very easy for the car to kind of flick you into the wall. Also, the BTCC Civic did a very good job of getting out of the way of that one. There was nearly a big crash there. As you come around to the final corner, on the final lap for these guys, it was close. It was a close race for everybody, actually. It was a highly enjoyable race, this one, I think. The Civic got very, very close. Couldn't quite get him on the line. But yeah, it was a very successful race. I think there's lots of good racing going on throughout the field, which is what we always want to see when it comes to these. Race number 2 is at Road Atlanta. Short, one of the Civic, something, I think it was a 94 Civic, got off the line very slowly. Normally when that kind of thing happens, there is a tremendous crash. Luckily, everybody got away with it, which I'm kind of surprised by. First corner here, yeah, there's a little bit of chaos. There's also a little bit of lag going on in this race. I say this every week, but yeah, the lag wasn't that good. Or should I say there was too much lag? There we go. That's probably a better way of putting it. As a gremlin ends up facing the wrong way. Not quite sure how he ended up there. And someone takes to the grass, and Alpha goes to the grass to avoid him. Yeah, there's a little bit of lag problem in this one, but still, it wasn't too bad a start, all things considered. This track is better for overtaking than Iberian. You're likely to see more overtaking this corner at the end of this this is the longest straight I think that we go to with any of these tracks. Is a very good place to overtake, and this was where I had high hopes for the Celica. I was hoping that I could make use of its ample straight line speed. It's one of the faster cars, probably not the fastest, but it's a fairly good overall car. There's lots of close racing with these cars. As we have a Dodge Omni which we've been following, it's really hard to show a good kind of shot of this opening lap because it was really very busy. But yeah, this Dodge Omni had started fairly low down and had done a good job to end up in his 4th, I think, by the start. And now he's going to get to 2nd as everybody falls at the first corner here. Yeah, it's very easy to get that first corner wrong, run a little bit wide. And the Dodge Omni has found himself up into 2nd. Pretty impressive from starting well down the order. This is kind of more midfield, and this is the Civic. In fact, I don't know if he stalled or was slow away from the line. Ignore the Seat, that lagged and broke. But yeah, this is further down the field, and still, there's lots of close racing. This is why, I've said this many times, this is why I love racing low-class cars. Sure, they're not quite as fast, they're not quite as noisy, maybe not quite as exciting to actually drive as your Ferraris, your Koenigsegg's, your Zondas, whatever, but you get so much better racing. That's terrible English as well, I realise. You get a lot more close racing, it's a lot more fun when everybody's all really close together. And I would rather race them. I'd rather race these cars than race the GT1 cars or whatever, because these generate better racing. That's why you very rarely see us run race cars for this kind of thing, because you just don't get as good racing. Now, there was some strange lagginess going on in this one. This is the best camera angle to show what goes on here. I don't know what happens. There is suddenly a magic flying Seat. I didn't realise the car was parked out there. He got killed and he couldn't move his car. And I ran a little bit wide on my screen. It looked like I kind of hit him, but I didn't take any damage. Well, the way his car reacted, sorry, it looks like I hit him, but I didn't take any damage. Yeah, I don't really know. Anyway, overtaking. There was a good battle going on between these two as the Civic manages to fend off the 240SX going through the chicane. However, on the exit, and the 240 has just about got the move done. I'm not sure how Forza categorises cars. There's some odd ones. Like I said, with the RX-7, with my Celica, with this 240SX. Yeah, also the Scirocco as well. That's more of a coupe than a hatchback. They all count as hatchbacks. Yet the likes of the Fiestas, they're counted as city cars or something like that, or economy cars. Yeah, it's a little bit funny. So there's some cars that people will probably argue about aren't really hatchbacks, but well, what can you do? Anyway, this Celica, a different Celica, this one, fell off the road at the first corner. Now there was a three-way battle. This is somewhere around 6th-ish, I think. I'm trying to guess now. It's really hard remembering what goes on in all of these. Either way, it was some good racing, pretty much wherever I looked. For these first couple of rounds, which is what I like to see. It makes editing more complicated because it's really hard to pick what to focus on, but it makes the races more fun. I think people enjoy the races when everybody's really close together. Now we're going to have a role reversal as we come into the chicane. This time the Civics on the inside had to dive up the inside, and the 240SX can't quite hold it around the outside, although the Civic runs a little bit wide across the grass. 240's having a little look, but no, the Civics are mighty fast in a straight line. Depending on how you build them, of course. There's a lot of that comes into it, but yeah, if they're built correctly, them Civics are blooming quick cars. Anyway, I think this is quite a lot further back actually, maybe even outside of the top 10. Still, there was some more battling going on between a Clio V6 and an Alfa Mito. There's a good variety of cars in this one, which I like to see. I feared there might be many a Civic turn up for this, but no, there was plenty of interesting cars. There's a Gremlin. There's a couple of Gremlins in this race actually, which I was very surprised to see. Nobody ran a Pinto though. I think Pintos were illegible, but yeah, there was plenty of different cars. Which is always good, makes the video more interesting. Also makes it easier for me commentating because I can call cars by their name rather than by their colour. If everybody's driving the same car, it's a real nightmare trying to commentate on that. Anyway, the Clio has got the straight line speed and it's a fairly straightforward pass on the Alpha in the end. Yes, there's a Gremlin on its roof. I'll show you that in a minute. That's a strange one, how the Gremlin ends up on its roof anyway. The Mito tries having a little bit of a look at getting back at the Clio. However, the Clio is the quicker of the two cars, and yeah, it's fairly straightforward. So this is, I'm not quite sure what goes on here. Another slight lag going on in front of him, and it just looks like the car twitches on him, and he loses control of it, and once it starts twitching, very hard to recover. Maybe he didn't have as many handling parts on the car, so as you kind of go over the bumps and crests there, it just lost control of it a little bit, and then went into the wall, and going sideways on the grass at those kind of speeds, ends up on your roof. It's an unfortunate incident, it's just one of those things. Losing control of your car over those bumps there, yeah, it happens, especially with these cars that are more difficult to drive. Up to the front, and I was defending for my life. My car was a good car, but it was no match really for these Civics. However, the straight line speed advantage was making it very, very hard to pass. I've said this many times before, because most of the overtaking is going to happen in the braking zones. However, I've got the faster car in a straight line, so by the time we get to the end of the straight, the Civic is a lot further back, which makes it very, very hard for him to try and outbrake me. That's why I picked this car. I wanted to experiment. I know that these tracks aren't really that good for kind of straight line speed cars, but I wanted to see what it would be like to run a car like that here, and I can defend. I can fend people off. However, I got lucky. I think I started fairly near the front here. However, overall lap time, it's not as competitive as some of the other cars, but still, it was a very enjoyable race that was, or up to that point. Well, further back, and another Gremlin ends up on its side and on its roof and spinning and flipping and crashed. Yeah, final corner here, there's a big curb, and yeah, you take too much of the curb, get the line a little bit wrong, and then you end up on your roof. Now, a few people will probably be saying, after there's been a couple of incidences with cars being upside down and broken, that we should have a rescue truck. Well, we can't. This is the very reason why I can't have a rescue truck, because you could not rescue that Gremlin safely. There is no way to move it safely. Either way you hit it, you're either going to push it into the road, or you're going to have the rescue vehicle in the road trying to push it out of the road. So yeah, it can't be. It's just too dangerous, or causes just as many incidences trying to move it as it does just leaving it there. Anyway, on to the final lap, and I was defending a little bit too heavily, and the Civic managed to go right around the outside of me. And as I said, now I know that I am in trouble, because while I can fend somebody off with a faster car, getting back past the Civic, it was never going to be likely. It was always going to be a tricky one. I should also point out, I forgot to mention earlier, that Seat, the Dodge Omni that was around, clattered into the Seat at some point, which is why the Dodge has vanished and the Seat has moved out of the road. Again, there was some odd lag going on with some of the cars here. There's just not much that, that I can do about that one, unfortunately. Roll on Forza 5 with many better servers. Anyway, I got a very, very good run through this final chicane. The Civic ran a little bit wide, and then all of a sudden I was right on him. I was praying that I'd have enough straight line speed in the sleeker as we go around the final corner. I don't want to clip too much of the curve, I don't want to roll the blooming thing, but I couldn't quite do it. It was a very close finish, a very enjoyable race that one. I had to spend a lot of it defending. Further back though, there was an even closer finish between another Civic and a Renault Megane as they come into the final chicane. The Civic's on the inside, however the Megane goes right round the outside, and now he finds himself on the inside for the next corner. Civic runs a little bit wide, there might have been a little bit of contact there, nothing major, and the Megane is all of a sudden in the position of power as he goes around the inside of the final corner, although a clever switchback from the Civic means that he takes the position on the line. That's some of the best driving, some of the best overtaking I've seen in any of these versus the community race, and that's definitely kind of overtaking manoeuvres of the evening, because there was like 3 going on in there. That was very impressive, very good driving from them too. We move on to our third and final race at the Hockenheim short circuit. I love this track because there's so many opportunities for overtaking. I think all but one corner here, in fact even that corner you can overtake on. There's so many corners you can overtake here. It's a really fantastic track. There's plenty of normally plenty of action going on here as we go 4 wide into the second corner. The Police Astra ends up a little bit off the track. I don't think he was pushed, I think he just ended up out there on his own. Yeah, 4 wide into a corner is always a little bit brave. In fact, we have, there's a picture of 4 Golfs going 4 wide through a corner on this track. But yeah, the first lap, and it's a great track, this one. I really do like it for racing these cars, or for racing any cars because there's just so many opportunities. You can have a dive into this hairpin, as I promptly do to demonstrate I remember what's going on. The Golf behind me tries to follow as well. Yeah, everybody was fairly close together. The opening lap of these things is always busy. The grid is set to random, so you never quite know. I'm having a look at a Renault 5 there. That is my favourite overtaking on this spot on this track. It's fantastic to have a dive up there because nobody expects it, although it's often easy to run into the side of somebody who doesn't realise you're going to do it. But yeah, I was saying the grid is set to random, so you never quite know where you're going to start. So you have the faster cars mixed in with the slower cars, which makes the opening lap always exciting. As I'm now trying to find my way past a Renault 5, there's a Civic behind me. I was terrified of these Civics. I'm having a look into the first corner, and no, can't quite get it done there. And of course, as I'm trying to find a way past, I'm slowing myself down, I'm slowing the Renault down, and the blooming Golf is joining in. It won't be long before the Civic, I think the Civic pretty much is on this train. This corner is pretty hard to overtake through this corner. It's very fast. I'm trying, I'm kind of having a look, but you can slow yourself down quite a lot, as I do here, if you kind of make a misjudgment in trying to overtake somebody through there. We then go too wide through here. That's a very scary place to go too wide. There's all sorts of crisscrossing going on, and then unfortunately I'm not 100% sure what happened there. I think the Renault 5 kind of comes across in front of me, and I've just got absolutely no space. On my screen I never hit him, but it definitely looks like I do. So I presume there's a little bit of lag. I couldn't move, so there's nothing I could do about that one. It's just it's unfortunate misjudgment on the Renault's part on that one. Either way, I got past the Renault, but the Golf had got past me, so I'd made up 0 ground, which is always nice. Further back, and there was some more lag issues in this one, unfortunately. I was hoping to say that there was some good racing further back, kind of throughout the field. There was to a point. The problem was there was just there, you can see here, just a little bit of lag going on, and yeah, there are a few broken cars, and there was cars lagging all over the place. Or not, this is not terrible. They weren't flying, they weren't going into orbit, but as you can see in front of this Astra, the Golf and the Renault 5 got together because of some laggy, jumpy cars. There's not much you can do about that, unfortunately. It was a shame because I think this track produces some great racing, but yeah, lag ruined it a little bit. Anyway, this is at the very front now, and there is going to be a change for the lead almost as the Dodge Omni runs a little bit wide through the first corner. I said Civic so many blooming times in this video. I apologise. Next week there will be no Civics, I can guarantee you that. But yeah, these two were battling quite fiercely for the lead. The Dodge Omni manages to kind of stay side by side as they go down here. It's scary going too wide through there. It's very fast through that section. Eventually the Civic pops out in front unless he runs a little bit wide, which he doesn't. Yeah, there's plenty of good. There was some good racing. I should say there were a few issues in this race. I'm not sure why it chose to lag. I hate the internet sometimes. Yeah, the Dodge is still trying to find a way back. He's still trying to look for a way past. I think they feel quite sorry for the Renault 5, who was battling away in 3rd and 4th a lap ago, and then the unfortunate incident has occurred and he found himself right at the very back. But yeah, at the front at least there was lots of, well, it was all very close, while the two leaders were right together. 3rd, 4th and 5th were also right together. I had now kind of got myself stuck behind a Golf while my Celica was very fast. It was quite hard to overtake. I was struggling around this circuit. I again make a slightly ill-advised move and now almost lose the place to the Civic, and in fact I have now lost the place to the Civic. The Golf then runs wide, and I've lost a place and gained a place. I basically went nowhere this race. Yeah, that was a little bit irritating. Because, as I said before, with my car, I can hold somebody off. I was holding the Civic off, and I could probably have held the Civic off for the rest of the race because he just couldn't get near me at the end of any of the straights. But now he's gone, and my kind of overall lap time isn't quite as fast. And yeah, I can't do much about it. Now I've just got to worry about keeping the Golf behind me, although I think the Golf was running slightly lower PI, so that one wasn't going to be too hard. This was further back, as I said, when I was kind of looking through the replay, trying to find other kind of races going on other than stuff just at the front. There wasn't a huge amount in this one. That was mainly down to the fact that lag had killed a few cars. This was quite an interesting matchup between another Golf, quite a few Golfs in this one, and a Kia C''D, an IKEA Kia. Yeah, that's not at all hard to say. I'm not sure why a Kia is in an oh yeah, I'm going to get myself confused. Never mind. Unusual choice of paint job for for a race car. It looks quite cool though. I quite like it. But yeah, this is, I can't remember what plate. I think this is for the lower part of the top 10. And this was really about it for elsewhere on the track. Yeah, there's just nobody was really that close. I think there were varying levels of damage on cars, so it was quite difficult for some people with like slight engine damage to keep up with other stuff. And of course aero damage, even though these cars, you know, aren't massively sort of powerful race cars with huge wings and all of that sort of thing, aero damage still does play a really big part on these. If you take a lot of aero damage, like 100% on the front and sides and that kind of thing, you lose an awful lot of straight line speed. I should probably maybe we'll do an investigate on how much you actually lose, but yeah, aero damage really does screw you over even on cars like this that aren't really that reliant on aero. There still was a few close races, a few close battles. We've got a 240 SX and a VW Rabbit, I think this is, sort of fighting for position. I think this is for around 6th, 7th, something like that. There's a Honda CRZ in there. Yeah. There was some racing, but as I said, it was slightly less exciting than the previous rounds just because of the lag. The Rabbit here is trying really hard to hold on to his position as he's going to run a little bit wide through the final corner, just about gets away with it. Yeah, there's a kind of like sticky, slidey stuff out there that you don't want to run. You don't want to run wide onto that, otherwise you're just going to kind of slide off and lose quite a lot of time. That Rabbit is mighty fast in a straight line as well. I was surprised. I thought the 240 was just going to go straight past it on the straight, but it didn't. The Rabbit runs a little bit wide. First corner here is always a tough one to judge on. I don't like running Hockenheim, particularly because of the first corner, as so many people either cut the first corner or run a little bit wide. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's annoying. But anyway, this is on to the final lap, and this is at the front. The leaders had stayed close pretty much the entire race, although the Civic just about had the measure of the Dodge. However, a back marker, I'm not really sure what he's doing here. I'm not sure if he doesn't know that they're there or isn't aware or doesn't know what to do. But either way, the back marker kind of screws up the Civic's kind of line through the final corner, and the Dodge didn't need a second invitation and just takes it on the line. Yeah, that's. I'm not quite sure what happened. I'm not sure if the back marker just wasn't really aware what was going on. But yeah, it's just one of those things that happens in racing, unfortunately. So there's a warning to everybody. If you are at the back, if you had a broken car, yeah, get out of the way of the leaders. Don't kind of interfere with their race. However, that is it for this video. Yeah, it was a good evening. I think there was a lot of good racing in these cars, and I was hoping it was going to produce good racing when you race this type of car. So yeah, I wasn't disappointed. Now the next FailRace versus the community is going to be on October the 1st. No, not October the 1st, October the 3rd. There we go. I remember my days of the week, honest. Which is a Thursday. It will start at the normal time of 7 PM British summertime. I think we're still in that at the moment. The cars which we will be using are E-Class Pacers versus Pintos. I saw this suggested, I think, either last week or the week before, or some variation of that. And I thought that could be quite fun to run those two. Yeah, I'm gonna make them. I'm gonna allow you to tune them up to E-Class. Don't really care what modifications you do to them, as long as they stay within E-Class. And it should be fairly chaotic, but fairly good fun. So yeah, that could be quite interesting. If you want to sign up to take part in that race, then you can go to our forums. I'll put a link into the description, and then you can go there. You find the FailRace versus the community section and the sign up section, and that is where you can sign up to take part. And to everybody who is telling me to do a versus the community on Gran Turismo 5, at some point there will be some form of racing on there. I don't like working with the replays as much. They're a little bit fiddly, they're a bit of a pain, but I will be doing some stuff on there. Just kind of bear with me while I figure out quite how I'm going to work it, quite how I'm going to make everything even. And yeah, just give me a couple of weeks to figure out everything, and then I will be starting doing a bit of things. That's terrible English again. It's late. I will be looking at doing some stuff on Gran Turismo. I just need to get a little bit more used to how the game works and how I can video and edit and everything. So yeah, bear with me on that front. Anyway, that is it for today. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.